The sky burns. It was a quiet morning on Earth. People woke up to a world that seemed no different from any other. The sun rose slowly, casting its warm light over cities and countryside alike. Birds sang in the trees and traffic hummed as usual. The world was peaceful, untouched by the chaos that lay just beyond the stars. Then, in an instant, everything changed. At exactly 8:15 a.m., without any warning, strange lights appeared in the sky. At first, they were small, faint glimmers, almost like the stars were moving. People looked up in confusion, unaware that they were about to witness something that would alter the course of history. The lights began to grow brighter, and the sky seemed to tremble. The shapes became clearer, massive and looming, as if something was descending from the heavens. In a matter of minutes, the strange lights multiplied. What began as a single light grew into hundreds, maybe thousands. The objects were descending from space, but they were not falling like meteors. No, they were controlled, moving deliberately toward Earth. They were warships, unlike anything humanity had ever seen. Gigantic ships with sleek, metallic surfaces, glowing with eerie green light. The news stations were the first to react, but it was already too late. As the lights grew brighter and closer, power grids started failing. Electricity flickered in homes, and traffic lights turned off. News anchors, normally calm and composed, now looked frantic, their voices shaking as they spoke to the cameras. Unidentified objects, entering Earth's atmosphere. Unknown origin, one reporter stammered. The word seemed almost impossible to believe. How could something like this be happening? The cameras captured images of the ships overhead. They were massive, stretching out across the sky like mountains of metal. There was no doubt in anyone's mind now. This was no meteor shower. It was an invasion. The first bomb fell in the middle of New York City. The explosion shattered buildings, sending a cloud of dust and fire into the air. People screamed, running through the streets as the sound of explosions grew louder. The air was thick with smoke, and the sky above them was filled with the shadows of alien ships. The first wave of alien forces had begun their attack, and Earth was helpless. Across the world, chaos erupted. The aliens had made no effort to hide their intentions. They were here to invade, to conquer. The ships hovered in the sky like vultures, casting dark shadows over the cities below. In Washington, D.C., military officials scrambled to respond. The president, still in shock, was rushed into an underground bunker with his advisors. Generals and commanders were shouting into phones, coordinating the defense efforts. But there was no plan in place for something like this. Humanity had never faced an enemy like the Xilari. The Xilari were the alien race that had appeared on Earth's doorstep. They were advanced, powerful, and ruthless. Their ships glided effortlessly through space, designed to destroy entire civilizations. They didn't care who or what stood in their way. Earth was just another obstacle in their quest for domination. The message came soon after the bombs began falling. It was broadcast on every channel, a chilling, cold voice cutting through the noise of the panic. "This is your final warning," the voice said. "Surrender now or be eradicated. You have no hope of resisting. Your planet is ours." The voice was alien, its language harsh, but the message was clear. They had come to conquer Earth, and they weren't going to waste time. They would destroy the human race if necessary, but they didn't need to. Surrender was their first demand, and it was made clear. If humanity didn't give up, the entire world would be crushed. Back on the streets, people began to run. Panic spread like wildfire. There was no time to think, no time to react. People scrambled for shelter, seeking whatever safety they could find. Families huddled together, some trying to get to underground bunkers, others simply running in fear. The alien ships, their strange forms dark against the sky, loomed above every city, casting a terrible shadow over the earth. It was as if the sun itself had been blotted out. But despite the fear, despite the chaos, there was something else. A spark, a flicker of defiance. It was small at first, buried in the hearts of the survivors, but it was there. Humanity wasn't going to give up without a fight. The military tried to respond, launching missiles into the air, but the missiles were useless. The alien ships dodged them effortlessly, their shields repelling the attacks like they were nothing more than raindrops. The humans were powerless. But even in the face of defeat, something deep inside the people of Earth changed. They weren't just going to accept this. And that was when the second wave hit. It wasn't more bombs or soldiers dropping from the skies. Instead, it was a signal, a jolt that went through the airwaves. It was faint at first, just a whisper, a low hum in the background. But then it grew, louder and louder, until it was a deafening roar. The world watched as the ground began to shake. The earth cracked open in several places, and from deep beneath the surface, strange machines began to rise. The human resistance had been working underground, building something far more powerful than anything the aliens had expected. These machines were unlike anything the HFY had ever seen, built using both human and alien technology. They were massive, powerful, and deadly. The aliens thought they had Earth in their grasp, but they had no idea what humanity had been preparing. And as the machines rose from the ground, the people of Earth gathered their courage. They knew they had a long fight ahead, but they also knew one thing for sure. The aliens had made a terrible mistake. They thought Earth was weak. They thought humanity would surrender. But they were wrong. The fight was only just beginning. The streets were filled with chaos. Fires raged in the distance, smoke rising like dark fingers into the sky. The air was thick with the smell of burning metal, ash, and fear. The alien ships still hovered above, their sleek, unbreakable hulls reflecting the destruction below. Every major city on Earth had suffered attacks, and it was clear that HFY were not holding back. The military scrambled to fight back. Fighter jets soared into the air, missiles locked onto the enemy ships. The pilots were some of the best in the world, trained for the most dangerous combat situations, but nothing had prepared them for this. The moment their missiles hit the alien shields, they fizzled out like fireworks against a storm. The aliens didn't even need to move. Their defenses were too strong. The pilots tried everything, weaving through the sky, launching every weapon they had. But one by one, their jets exploded, turned to fireballs by precise alien energy blasts. On the ground, the situation was even worse. The HFY had begun sending down troops, strange, armored creatures with glowing red eyes and weapons that disintegrated anything in their path. The soldiers of Earth fought bravely, but their bullets did little against the enemy's armor. Every time they took down one alien, 3 more appeared in its place. The enemy moved like a well-oiled machine, their attacks precise and merciless. The battlefield was littered with debris and bodies, a grim reminder that this was not just an invasion. It was extermination. But humanity had not given up yet. In an underground bunker beneath Washington, D.C., a secret meeting was taking place. Military leaders, scientists, and world leaders sat around a large holographic display, watching the invasion unfold in real time. Desperation was clear in their eyes, but so was determination. The president slammed his fist on the table. There has to be something we can do. We can't just let them take our planet. A scientist, an older man with tired eyes and a sharp mind, leaned forward. We've been working on something that might turn the tide. But it's dangerous, and it's not ready. The room fell silent. Then a general spoke, his voice firm. We don't have time for ready. Tell us what it is. The scientist hesitated for only a moment before pressing a button. A new image appeared on the holographic display. It showed a massive underground facility where towering war machines stood in darkness, waiting. They were unlike anything Earth had ever built. Heavy armor, advanced energy weapons, and technology reverse-engineered from old alien wreckage found years ago. We call them the Titan-class mechs, the scientist explained. Built in secret. Experimental. Each one is piloted by a human, but they operate with an eye-assisted system. They're our best shot." The president stared at the display, then nodded. "Deploy them." At that moment, deep underground, alarms blared. Pilots rushed to their stations, strapping into the enormous machines. The ground above trembled as hidden doors opened, and one by one, the Titan-class mechs emerged. They stood like giants, their armor gleaming in the firelight of the burning cities. The auxiliary ships above paused, as if assessing the new threat. Then, for the first time since the invasion began, the humans attacked with something that could actually fight back. The ground shook as the Titan-class mechs took their first steps onto the battlefield. Towering above the streets, these mechanical giants were humanity's last hope against the invaders. Each mech was operated by an elite pilot, their minds synchronized with the machines through a neural link. These were not ordinary soldiers. They were the best humanity had to offer. As the auxiliary forces continued their assault, the mechs moved into action. Their massive energy cannons charged up, and with a deafening blast, the first shot was fired. A bright beam of concentrated plasma ripped through the sky, striking one of the alien ships directly. For the first time since the invasion began, auxiliary warship exploded. The shockwave sent debris raining down over the city, and the battlefield fell silent for a brief moment. Then, chaos erupted. The auxiliary, caught off guard, reacted quickly. More ships descended, their weapons locking onto the mechs. Energy blasts rained down, shaking the earth as they tried to destroy the new threat. But the Titan-class mechs were built for war. Their thick armor absorbed the blasts, and their energy shields deflected incoming fire. With deadly precision, they returned fire, their plasma cannons tearing through the enemy ranks. On the ground, the human soldiers who had been fighting desperately began to regroup. Seeing the mechs fight back gave them renewed hope. "Push forward," a commander shouted. "We are not losing this planet." Human tanks rolled through the streets, opening fire on the auxiliary ground forces. Infantry units advanced with determination. Using every weapon, they had to slow the alien advance. The auxiliary, for the first time, faced true resistance. Inside one of the mechs, Captain Ethan Cole clenched his jaw, his hands gripping the neural controls. The machine responded instantly to his thoughts, moving like an extension of his own body. His targeting system locked onto an enemy warship, and he fired without hesitation. The plasma round hit its mark, and another alien ship fell. "This is working," his co-pilot, Lieutenant Ramirez, shouted. "We can actually fight back." But the victory was short-lived. High above, the auxiliary mothership began to shift. Its lower sections opened up, revealing something hidden beneath its surface. Then, with a deep, echoing hum, it unleashed a new type of attack. A strange energy pulse rippled through the air, spreading outward in all directions. The Titan-class mechs trembled as their systems flickered. One by one, their energy shields shut down. Their weapons malfunctioned. The pilots inside felt the neural connection weaken. "They figured out how to disable us," Ramirez shouted. "We're losing power." Ethan gritted his teeth. "Not yet. We're not done yet." The auxiliary forces pushed forward, sensing weakness. Their soldiers advanced with renewed aggression, their weapons cutting down human troops as they moved toward the disabled mechs. The tide of battle was shifting again, and this time, it was in the enemy's favor. Across the battlefield, the once powerful mechs stood frozen, their systems struggling to reboot. The humans had fought back harder than the auxiliary had expected, but now, the invaders were adapting. The war for Earth was far from over. The battlefield had fallen silent, but only for a moment. The Titan-class mechs stood frozen, their towering forms lifeless as the alien energy pulse disrupted their systems. Human soldiers watched in horror as the mechs, their last hope, became nothing more than metal statues. The auxiliary saw the opportunity and wasted no time. Their soldiers, sleek and armored, moved forward in perfect formation, their energy rifles glowing with deadly light. Their warships loomed above, their cannons charging for another devastating barrage. Ethan Cole struggled inside his mech's cockpit. His neural link flickered, sending painful shocks through his brain. The control system was failing, the displays glitching. Every attempt to reboot was met with error messages. "Come on, come on," he growled, slamming his fist against the console. "We need to eject," Lieutenant Ramirez shouted. "We're sitting ducks in here." "No," Ethan snapped. "We can't just give up. There has to be a way to." His words cut off as the screens flashed red. A new signal appeared. Deep within the Titan-class mech's core, a secondary system had activated. A backup AI, installed in case of emergencies, had just woken up. The words "Override Protocol, Titan Awakening" flashed across the screen. "What the hell is that?" Ramirez asked. Ethan didn't answer. He simply pressed the activation key. A low hum filled the mech's cockpit, and suddenly the neural link reconnected. A rush of energy surged through the machine. The mech's lights flickered back on, and the controls responded instantly to Ethan's thoughts. Across the battlefield, the other Titan-class mechs also reactivated. Their systems roared back to life, their power surging beyond their original limits. Whatever the override protocol had done, it had removed the restrictions on their weapons and shields. The Titans were no longer just experimental war machines. They had evolved. The auxiliary soldiers, expecting their enemies to be helpless, were caught off guard when the mechs moved again. With a single motion, Ethan's mech raised its arm and unleashed a blast of plasma so powerful it vaporized an entire squad of aliens. The other mechs followed suit, their weapons firing at full strength. The auxiliary ground troops, once unstoppable, were now being torn apart. The alien warships adjusted, preparing to fire another energy pulse to disable the mechs again. But this time, the Titans were ready. Their energy shields flared back to life, stronger than before. The auxiliary pulses struck, but instead of shutting them down, the mechs absorbed the energy, converting it into additional power. Ethan smirked. Not this time. With a thought, he activated the Titan's new ability. A glowing energy blade formed along the mech's right arm, humming with deadly force. He launched forward, moving faster than ever before, and with one clean swing, he sliced through auxiliary warship. The massive vessel split in half, exploding into a fireball that illuminated the battlefield. The humans on the ground erupted into cheers. Hope had returned. The other Titan pilots joined the assault. One fired a charged plasma blast that ripped through 3 enemy ships at once. Another stomped through the battlefield, crushing auxiliary soldiers underfoot. The battle, which had seemed lost just moments ago, was turning. But the auxiliary were not finished. Above them, the mothership shifted again. The sky darkened as a massive cannon emerged from its core. The humans had won this battle, but the war was far from over. The auxiliary were preparing their most devastating weapon yet, one that could wipe out Earth in a single strike. Ethan stared up at the mothership, his heart pounding. We just made them angry. Ramirez's voice was tense. So what's the plan? Ethan clenched his fists. We take the fight to them. As the Titan-class mechs prepared for their most dangerous mission yet, the fate of humanity hung in the balance. The final battle was about to begin. The ground trembled as the auxiliary mothership positioned itself directly over Earth's last stronghold. The massive warship, spanning miles across, cast a dark shadow over the battlefield. The air was heavy with tension. Everyone, human soldiers, Titan pilots, even civilians hiding in bunkers, knew what was coming. The auxiliary were preparing their ultimate weapon, a planet-killing cannon that could wipe out entire continents in a single blast. Inside his Titan-class mech, Ethan Cole watched the readings on his display. The energy levels from the mothership were rising fast. He could see the glow building at its core, a swirling mass of destruction that would soon be unleashed on Earth. He swallowed hard. There wasn't much time. "We need to stop that cannon before it fires," Ethan said, his voice calm but urgent. Lieutenant Ramirez, his co-pilot, scanned the readings. "If that thing fires, Earth is finished. Our mechs won't survive another auxiliary pulse, and neither will humanity." Ethan activated the comms, connecting with the other Titan pilots. "Listen up. We're taking the fight straight to that mothership. If we don't stop them now, there won't be anything left to protect." One by one, the pilots confirmed. They knew the risks. They knew this could be their last battle. But they had no choice. With a mighty leap, the Titan mechs launched into the sky. Their boosters roared, sending them rocketing upward, straight toward the enemy warship. The auxiliary saw them coming and responded instantly. Alien warships swarmed in defense, unleashing deadly energy blasts. Plasma beams cut through the air, forcing the Titans to weave and dodge. One mech took a direct hit, spiraling out of control before crashing back to Earth in a fiery explosion. But the rest kept going. Ethan's mech twisted through the chaos, his energy blade cutting through enemy fighters as he advanced. The Titans were outnumbered, but they were stronger, faster, and more determined. "Almost there," Ramirez shouted. Then the auxiliary mothership activated its final defense. A wave of pulse energy erupted from its surface, aimed directly at the incoming Titans. Ethan braced himself. The pulse hit, and his mech's systems flickered. Warnings flashed across his screen. Neural link unstable. Power levels dropping. It was happening again. The auxiliary were using the same disabling pulse that had shut them down before. But this time, something was different. The override protocol, Titan Awakening, was still active. The mechs didn't shut down completely. They resisted. Ethan felt the machine fighting against the energy, pushing back against the auxiliary's control. The power flickered, but it didn't die. "We can still move," Ramirez shouted. Ethan clenched his fists. "Then we finish this." With one final push, the Titan mechs broke through the last line of defenses and landed directly on the hull of the auxiliary mothership. The metal beneath them groaned under their weight. They had made it. But now, the real battle began. Auxiliary ground forces poured out from hidden compartments, their weapons blazing. They would not let the Titans destroy their ship without a fight. The mechs charged forward, engaging in brutal hand-to-hand combat. Energy blades clashed against alien weapons. Plasma blasts tore through the hull, sending debris flying into space. Ethan's mech moved like a warrior, slashing through enemy soldiers and dodging their attacks. He could feel his body shaking from exhaustion, but he pushed on. There was no turning back. Ahead, the massive cannon loomed, glowing brighter with each passing second. It was almost ready to fire. If they didn't destroy it now, Earth would be lost. Ethan activated his mech's final weapon, a high-energy charge, designed as a last resort. If he could get close enough to the cannon's core, he could overload it, triggering a chain reaction that would destroy the entire ship. But the auxiliary weren't going to make it easy. A massive alien war mech emerged from the depths of the mothership. Unlike the others, this one was built for battle. Twice the size of a Titan-class mech, its black armor was covered in glowing red symbols. It carried a massive energy blade, its tip crackling with power. The auxiliary warlord had arrived. Ethan's breathing slowed. This was it. The final battle had begun. The auxiliary warlord stood before Ethan's Titan-class mech, its towering form radiating power. Its red energy blade pulsed with unstable force, ready to strike. The battlefield around them burned. Titan mechs clashed with auxiliary soldiers. Explosions rocked the mothership's hull, and debris drifted into the void of space. But none of that mattered now. Ethan gripped the controls of his mech. His neural link pulsed with pain, but he ignored it. He had one goal: reach the core of the auxiliary cannon and destroy it before it fired on Earth. But to do that, he had to get past the warlord. The alien commander let out a deep, rumbling growl, then lunged. It moved impossibly fast for something so massive. its energy blade slicing through the air in a deadly arc. Ethan barely dodged. The blade cut inches from his mech's armor, sending sparks flying. He retaliated, swinging his own energy weapon toward the auxiliary's midsection. But the warlord was just as quick. It blocked the attack with a loud crackle of energy, then slammed its other arm into Ethan's mech, sending him crashing into the metal deck. Warning lights flashed inside the cockpit. Ethan's head spun. The warlord wasn't just strong, it was skilled. This wasn't some mindless brute. It had trained for war. Ramirez's voice crackled over the comms. "Ethan, get up. The cannon is almost at full charge." Ethan gritted his teeth. He couldn't waste time here. The warlord advanced again, its blade raised high. Ethan forced his mech to roll, barely avoiding another deadly strike. He fired his shoulder-mounted plasma cannon at point-blank range. The blast hit, sending the warlord stumbling back. Its armor burned, but it wasn't enough to take it down. The alien let out a furious roar and charged again. Ethan had no choice. He activated his mech's thrusters and launched forward, meeting the warlord head-on. Their blades clashed in a shower of sparks, the force of their battle shaking the entire mothership. Meanwhile, the other Titan pilots fought desperately to hold back the auxiliary reinforcements. Lieutenant Ramirez led the charge, her mech blasting through enemy ranks with relentless firepower. "We can't hold them forever," she shouted. Ethan knew she was right. This battle had to end. Now. The warlord struck again, aiming for Ethan's cockpit. He barely blocked the blow, but the force sent his mech skidding backward. His systems flickered. Damage reports flooded his screen. His mech couldn't take much more. Then he saw it. The warlord had left itself open. For just a split second, its defenses were down. Ethan didn't hesitate. He pushed his mech forward, dodging under the alien's next attack. With every ounce of strength he had left, he drove his energy blade straight into the warlord's core. The alien's eyes widened in shock. Ethan twisted the blade. The warlord let out a deafening, guttural roar. Its energy blade flickered, then died. Its massive body swayed, then collapsed to the ground with a heavy thud. Sparks shot from its armor as its systems failed. The Auxiliary warlord, Earth's greatest enemy, was dead. But there was no time to celebrate. The mothership's cannon had reached full power. Ethan's screen showed a countdown minus 10 seconds until fire. If he didn't destroy the core now, Earth would be lost. With everything he had, he forced his mech forward. Smoke poured from the damaged joints, sparks flew from the failing circuits, but he didn't stop. He sprinted toward the cannon, activated the Titan's last energy charge, and leaped straight into the core. A blinding explosion filled his vision. Then, silence. For a moment, there was nothing but darkness. Silence. Then Ethan's eyes flickered open. Alarms blared inside his cockpit. His vision blurred. His body ached. But he was alive. The explosion had thrown his Titan-class mech backward, slamming it against the hull of the auxiliary mothership. Sparks rained from the damaged systems. His screens flickered. The status reports told him what he already knew. His mech was barely holding together. But none of that mattered. He turned his head, looking through the cracked viewport. Where the auxiliary cannon had once been, there was now only a gaping hole. His final attack had worked. The cannon's core had been overloaded, its energy rupturing the entire weapon system. But the damage had done more than just disable the cannon. The explosion had triggered a catastrophic chain reaction inside the mothership. Fires erupted across its massive frame. Secondary detonations rocked its structure. Its glowing power cores, once pulsing with deadly energy, now flickered chaotically. The entire warship was breaking apart. Then, the voice of Lieutenant Ramirez crackled through the comms. "Ethan, you did it. The cannon is down." He exhaled sharply. "Yeah, but we're not out of this yet. That ship is going down, and we're still on it." Outside, the battlefield had changed. The auxiliary forces, once so confident, were now in chaos. With their mothership crippled, their fleet was in disarray. Some ships tried to retreat. Others lost control, their systems failing as the mothership's destruction disrupted their command links. The human forces, sensing the shift, pushed forward with renewed strength. But Ethan and his team had a bigger problem. They were still on the dying warship, and time was running out. The mothership's structure groaned as explosions tore through its inner chambers. Fires raged through the corridors, vents bursting with superheated gas. The battlefield beneath them was no longer stable. It was crumbling. "Everyone, get to the extraction point now," Ramirez ordered. Ethan forced his battered mechs to move. Every step was agonizing. His thrusters sputtered, barely functional, but he pushed forward. Around him, the other Titan pilots fought to escape as the auxiliary soldiers, now desperate, launched a final attack. Even in death, the auxiliary refused to surrender. "Ethan, on your right," Ramirez warned. A surviving auxiliary war mech lunged from the shadows, its plasma rifle aimed at Ethan's cockpit. He reacted on instinct. With one final surge of energy, he swung his damaged energy blade, slicing through the enemy's weapon. Sparks exploded from the alien mech as it staggered back. Ethan didn't hesitate. He drove his blade through its core, ending the fight. The extraction point was just ahead. The human dropships hovered near the crumbling wreckage, their ramps open. One by one, the Titan mechs leaped toward safety. Ethan's mech limped forward. The ground beneath him shook violently. The mothership was seconds away from total collapse. He activated his thrusters one last time, propelling his damaged Titan into the air. The dropship's magnetic locks engaged, pulling him in just as the floor gave way beneath him. Then, the auxiliary mothership exploded. A blinding wave of fire and debris erupted into space. The force of the blast shook the human dropships, sending shockwaves across the battlefield. For a moment, everything was chaos. Then, silence. The auxiliary mothership was gone. Inside the human command ship, cheers erupted. The Titan pilots slumped in their cockpits, exhausted but victorious. Ramirez laughed breathlessly. "We actually did it." Ethan leaned back, closing his eyes for a moment. The war wasn't over. There were still auxiliary forces to deal with. But they had won the battle. They had stopped Earth's destruction. And for the first time in a long time, humanity had hope.